Gen Z is so lonely and has so many fewer friends than previous generations that it has literally changed our brain chemistry so anesthesia no longer works on us. Anesthesiologists have to use fentanyl instead.
I'm Dr. Anthony Cave, a Stanford and Harvard trained anesthesiologist. When patients are wound up, their central nervous system is on high alert all the time because of chronic loneliness. How the Gen Zer's body responds. Their brain has been rewired in ways that they need so much more anesthesia. Sometimes they need more of this, which is medical grade fentanyl.
That is terrifying. More than a quarter of Gen Z has no close friends at all, and our lives have become drab and lonesome. As Roger Miller sang, the last word in lonesome is me.
The last word in lonesome is me.
I am the girl with no friends.
I'm in my mid-20s and I can confidently say that I have no friends.
Day 10 of sitting alone at lunch.
I have no friends.
I, a couple months ago, came across a YouTube video of a kid who was 25 and he was talking about how he had no friends. That video hit some 1 million views, something like that. And the comments, there were thousands of people in the comments that were like, oh, I'm 25 or younger and I also have no friends. Oddly enough, I was so heartbroken by seeing that I was like, wait a minute, what if I made a Facebook group and dropped the link in this YouTube video? What would happen? Would all the lonely people like get together in a group and not be lonely? That Facebook group now has 500 people in it. And so it's almost like a social experiment that made me realize people really are lonely.
There are 4 causes of the Gen Z loneliness epidemic that no one's talking about. Of course, phones and the death of third spaces are important, but there's something much deeper going on here. First, we don't need each other anymore. When you're extremely poor, like in the favelas of Brazil, you rely on other people all the time, for work, for community, for food. But once a country becomes wealthier, industrialization can allow you the possibility to live on your own, to DoorDash your food and work on Zoom. Friendship is no longer something that occurs out of life and death necessity, but it's now something you can choose. We have reached the point where people become friends not because they need to, but because they want to. And it seems like a lot of people don't want to. Is that me being harsh? Well, here's reason 2. It's our own fault. We're too worried about protecting our peace.
Listen, I don't need anybody. You heard that right. I don't need anyone.
Like, when people don't come correct with me, I'm like really quick to cut people out. Like, I don't even think twice about it.
You know when you're protecting your peace, but then you realize, okay, I really haven't socialized in a week.
There is this wave of intolerance to discomfort that has overcome Gen Z. Going to bed at 9 p.m. every single night and reading is not protecting your peace. Oftentimes it's actually just developing an allergy to chaos, an allergy to the spontaneity of human existence.
Because Gen Z is so obsessed with this idea of setting standards and boundaries, so much so that if you cross them or if you don't quote unquote respect them, you were out of the picture, you were cut off.
I don't know what it is about our generation, but I feel like almost everyone I know goes to therapy, has a 7-step skincare routine, prefers to stay in instead of going out to a club. I feel like we're really out here taking care of us, you know?
Answer her messages because I don't owe her anything. He's single. Arrest me.
Rather than focusing on how we can be better friends and the joy and privilege of having someone you're so close with that you can go through hard moments with.
I am desperately calling on some of you to be better friends. Stop committing to something and then not showing up. So many people are complaining of feeling lonely, feeling alone, feeling isolated, and then self-sabotaging when those opportunities present themselves.
We've become so therapized, so worried about protecting every aspect of our mental health and our time, that we view any helping of a friend as an imposition, an inconvenience.
I've been here for an hour. Are you almost at the airport?
Girl, I woke up so sleepy today. Clearly I need the rest, so I'm gonna prioritize my health.
Hello?
I just can't believe Jeremy cheated on me after he proposed.
You're trauma dumping. It's really unfair to me and I don't have the emotional bandwidth for this right now. Also, Jeremy asked me on a date. Should I go? I'm doing a lot of inner healing right now and I just don't think your 30th birthday party is the right environment for me. I'm allowed to say no sometimes. I'll go to your next one.
We believe the toxic idea that we don't owe anyone anything. But of course we do. Friendship is built on a voluntary caring for the other person if you only care for them, insofar as you never are in the slightest way inconvenienced. You don't care about them, you care about you, making them not a friend, but rather an undercompensated assistant.
You don't owe anybody anything. Yes, you do.
You owe everybody everything. We owe
each other, everything, okay? That kind of mindset is how we get stuck with motherfuckers charging $5 for their friends' kids to eat a banana at their house.
We've gotten into such a scary place where people think that friendship is tit for tat. And that's why everybody is so lonely, and that's why everybody is so miserable. Everybody wants a village and no one wants to be a villager. And there's a direct correlation between not showing up for your friends and being miserable. If you constantly don't show up for your friends, they will stop showing up for you and then you will be lonely. We have over-therapized ourselves into a society where we feel it's okay to cancel on our friends last minute because we have social anxiety or we need to set a boundary. We need to protect our peace. Well, you've protected your peace into having no friends.
So the truth is, showing up for your friends is oftentimes inconvenient. It is going to inconvenience you. You are going to often have to spend money that you didn't think you were going to spend. You are going to have to spend time that you didn't think you were going to spend. Having boundaries does not exempt you from showing up for a friend. And what showing up for a friend does not look like, it's going somewhere and then complaining about being there the entire time. It's better you didn't show up, because you know what you didn't act like in that moment? You didn't act like a friend.
Personally, I don't even like the phrase, I'm being inconvenienced by my friends, because if we're friends, I shouldn't even see it as an inconvenience, but a privilege to be contacted and share time together. I hung out with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and as we were paying for our meals, he goes, "Oh, bye Jordan, have a safe ride home, I'll get an Uber." But then I was like, what? No, I'm giving you a ride, bro. And bear in mind, this guy lives, 30 minutes away, so it's not that big of a hassle. And he's just standing there shocked I would offer him a ride. He tries to insist more, but I just ended by saying, no dude, this is just what being friends is about. If I can't show up for you more than one time of the year, how are we ever going to build trust together? Somewhere along the way, I feel like we've forgotten the awesomeness that comes from having close bonds with friends. Having a close friend isn't just someone you can talk to, it's someone you can rely on, and they can rely on you when you guys need each other.
The third reason is a loss of shared optimism. If you ask your parents what they thought the future was going to be like when they were kids, they'll tell you they imagined flying cars, or going to Mars, or futuristic bars. Now we imagine fascism, or climate change, or civil war, and this sounds like it's unrelated and abstract, but when kids literally have climate anxiety, I knew a girl once who refused to go to the beach because she was worried that she would go to the beach and there would be, there'd be like a typhoon from climate change. This is like Santa Monica. There'd be climate change would get her if she went to the beach. So when kids have climate anxiety, or they're worried about getting shot in school, or feel nervous to say out loud what they really believe, the downstream effect is seeing the world through a more hostile lens. And who makes up the world but other people? And then this less rosy view of the future will contribute to a sense of nihilism and impotence. If you think the world is going to hell by a bell, downstream from that, you'll be less motivated to engage more with the world that's full of all this wickedness. And the final reason is the abolition of man. This phrase comes from C.S. Lewis's seminal treatise on education. He complained that teachers in his time, if he could only see the world now, were too focused on flattening out the excitable personalities of their students, making them all the same to make them more receptive for their standardized academic instruction. He says teachers should be doing the opposite. Teachers should be trying to bring out each student's individuality, their zeal, their lust for life, and their excitement about the world. And that students had become so sterile, focusing on their schoolwork and not what their schoolwork is supposed to lead them to, which is a better grasp and appreciation for the world, right? Schoolwork is not an end in and of itself. It is a means to become better equipped to be in the world. And so if you're diminishing someone's personality and their excitement about the world in order to get them to be better at quadratic equations, well, you're missing the forest for the trees here. Here's what Lewis said. For every one pupil who needs to be guarded from a weak excess of sensibility, meaning they're too excitable, they need to be calmed down, there are 3 who need to be awakened from the slumber of cold vulgarity. The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. And look around you. Do you think schools are suffering from people who are too excited and need to be calmed down, or from people who are just not excited about anything and need to be awoken from their solemn vulgarity? And this is everywhere. Like, rightly or wrongly, from the legacy of the Me Too era, a lot of guys won't ask out a girl. Because so many people are worried about being a burden, a lot of people won't ask a friend to hang out. Because people are scared of looking weird, people won't throw nerdy themed parties about the 80s band Air Supply or the Land Before Time movie series, or anything you're really excited about that you think people will think is weird. I mentioned in my other video how people won't run because they're so worried about people will think they're weird for running.
You know what I think is so freaking embarrassing is when someone like texts you, "Oh my gosh, I saw you out running." And I look at the text and I'm like, no, you did not. Shut up. Stop. No. I'm literally so embarrassed. I'm like, Why did you look?
So they will literally sacrifice their life. They will sacrifice their cardiovascular health and probably die like at least a few months earlier by avoiding running just so they don't get like a weird look from some random TikToker. And because people are so worried about protecting their peace, they won't go out of their way to help a friend. And because we're so worried of what people will think of us or any kind of risk, we just sit alone and doom scroll all day. Because the riskiest thing you can do in life is not take one.
What are you doing Friday? Nothing. I don't have friends or plans ever. Cool, you want to go out drinking? No. You go out? No, it's just work, gym, grocery store, house. Do you talk to girls at the gym? What? No, I'm not a fucking creep. I'm doom scrolling, cranking, drinking. Ew. Same though.
I'll epitomize it this way. Previous generations used to play to win. They were in life for a good outcome. They would try to make good friends, to have a good time, to do something great. They would want to get together with someone for the possibility that it might go well. We, the Zoomers, are playing not to lose. Rather than trying to get a good friendship or a good moment out of it, we're just trying to avoid something going wrong. To avoid embarrassing ourselves. To avoid spending too much time helping someone who doesn't deserve it. Someone in therapy speak who doesn't recognize our worth or value our time. To avoid a bad friendship. So we just have no friendships. And we all fundamentally know this is the wrong approach. It's much better to risk something going wrong or something being imbalanced than guaranteeing nothing goes right. If 1,000 people were drowning and you only had 500 life jackets, most of us would still hand over the 500 life jackets, even though it would probably mean the most aggressive and selfish people who could jockey their way to the front of the line would get the life jackets and survive, while 500 kind-hearted people drown to their deaths. We all prefer 500 potentially slightly less deserving people to live than 1,000 people to die. So yes, maybe sometimes you'll get burned by being friends with someone who doesn't appreciate your worth. But that's better than never having friends. And we have fundamentally fallen into the error C.S. Lewis warned about. We're so worried about doing something wrong, whether it's with relationships or friendships or parties or driving. Gen Z has their driver's license at rates far lower than any other generation. We only do what we think is the safest thing, which is to sit inside and scroll, which only guarantees loneliness and depression. It's simple economics. As friendship becomes more and more expensive because there are 1 million things that either party can do wrong, and to protect your peace, you gotta jettison the whole friendship, and the supply goes down because people are socializing less, well, there's gonna be fewer transactions of friendship. Friendship now is so precarious. If someone is rude to you or shows up late or cancels too late, the right thing to do, according to like some corners of TikTok or therapy speak, is to cut them out of your life. Like, you go. You don't need any kind of friend who's rude to you.
You don't owe anyone anything.
You don't have to be friends with them.
This is the simultaneous effect of you being aware that if you do something, say the wrong thing, if you are late sometime, if you don't protect your friend's peace enough, then you'll be dropped as a friend. You'll be dropped faster than Dan Schneider will drop. You'll be dropped faster than Dan Schneider will drop at the chance to hang out with Joe Jackson, if you know his nickname. Reminds me of this Louis C.K. joke where he's overhearing like these college girls have a conversation, and this girl has this guy who's not texting her back, and the friend is like, "Oh, it's just because you're too amazing." And Louis like, "You are a terrible friend. Like, you should be honest with your friend."
You're amazing. So he just can't handle how amazing you are. And I remember thinking, that is a shitty friend. That's not a good friend. That is not a good way to approach life. I'm amazing. And anybody who doesn't text me back, it's just can't handle how amazing I am.
But instead of saying that to our friends, we're saying that to each other, where we say we're so amazing. If our friend inconveniences us in any way, we'll drop them. And we know that our friend is thinking the same thing. So our whole friendships are in a desperate state of precarity. And that's not how it's supposed to be. Friendship is supposed to be the most enduring of relationships, even more than family. These are the people you choose. You choose. Therefore, you didn't choose your family, but you got to choose who you give yourself to. Have you ever heard blood is thicker than water? That phrase literally means the opposite of what people use it for. The full phrase is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, saying our bonds of friendship, our bonds of choice, our bonds by covenant are thicker and more durable than the water of the womb, our familial relationships. And this is a real loss. There's a phrase sociologists use called social capital, which is social environments that by dint of existence allow us all to be better. For instance, it's the countries with the most social trust that report the greatest happiness. Communities with more trust have lower depression and better childhood outcomes. GDP is higher because there are fewer barriers to exchange goods and services when you trust the person in front of you. On the individual level, you'll have more access to jobs and information, emotional support, and consequent happiness and meaning when you have a community with a lot of social capital, with a lot of trust. And so when that social cohesion breaks down, everyone is negatively affected. Economically, psychologically, medically. The cost of every transaction goes up and you become skeptical of everyone around you when we're so worried about protecting our peace and we don't value our friendships over inconvenience. If you've ever been to a low-trust society like Sudan, you sometimes enter the country, a police officer will stop you and ask for a bribe to let you continue driving, nakedly.
Major bag alert, major bag alert, bag alert, major.
You have to like bribe to get your luggage.
And countries like that not only have the worst poverty and most violence, they have the lowest levels of happiness too. I sort of got this canard when I was little that like all the countries, the poorest countries in sub-Saharan Africa are the happiest. You know, like the teachers would show you a bunch of kids like playing soccer with like a tin can and be like, oh my gosh, this is like the pinnacle of happiness. But if you look at the World Happiness Reportings, those are actually the countries with the lowest happiness ratings. And now I'm gonna get pretty serious here. Have you ever heard of the Robin Williams quote, "The worst thing in life isn't being alone, it's being around people who make you feel alone"? I think that's true. Being lonely sucks, but I think we all know when you're around people who make you feel worthless or just make you feel like a complete outsider, a complete pariah, it's worse. What a lot of people don't know is Robin Williams didn't actually say that. It's a quote from his film, World's Greatest Dad, which just embodies this idea. In the film, Robin is a struggling writer who never had any success. When his son dies from autoerotic asphyxiation, Robin lies, says it was a suicide, and forges a suicide note. Because Robin is such a talented writer, the kid's suicide note and tragic story becomes a national headline. Robin is greeted like a Knight of the Garter, his crush likes him back, he's on talk shows, but he knows it's all fake. And so despite all of his dreams of becoming a successful writer coming true, he's never felt worse, and he's never felt more hollow, culminating in him giving this unforgettable confession, where he attacks the superficiality of all the people who now claim to love him and love his son when he knows they're just following the trend, and they don't actually care about him or his son or any kind of human connection.
You guys didn't like Kyle, but that's okay. He was my son. But he was also a douchebag. Kyle died accidentally while masturbating. I made it look like a suicide, and I wrote a suicide note.
And what's so striking is right after he ruins his life by telling the truth, he's never felt more free. And the movie ends with him skinny dipping in the high school pool to the tune of Under Pressure by Queen. And him hanging out with his nerdy friends that no one likes, where there's like a 40-year age gap, but he genuinely feels connected to. And we're all Robin. We think being with the right groups of people, or protecting our peace enough, or getting some kind of status and acclaim will make us feel fulfilled. But really, it's the people that we're most connected to, a small number of real connections, that makes all the difference. And once you have that, you never want to let it go. So if there's some inconvenience, or you feel in some way the person you're friends with is not an absolutely perfect person in every way, you'll be willing to overlook it, because the good of your friendship is incomparable. Hank Green talks about straight out of college, he got his dream job. He was working in science, he was getting paid, he was doing lab work, but he was miserable because he wasn't around anybody else. And he says the true secret to a fulfilling career is not even what you do. It's not even liking the field you're in. It's being around people you like. And this is deadly stuff we're talking about. A landmark meta-analysis of over 300,000 people found those without strong social relationships had a 50% increased likelihood of death. Of just death, which is a way bigger risk than smoking cigarettes every day. Having close friendships lowers your depression risk 17%. It even improves your blood pressure. It lowers your risk of stroke by 19%, which literally means there's millions of people who like had a stroke and died because they didn't become friends with Bob from The Office. Think about that next time you want to end a friendship, or someone wants to end a friendship because like you have to cancel plans. There's a reason we all know those stories, maybe your grandparents, of those couples who have been together for 60 years, and when one of them dies, the other one dies soon after. We're social creatures. We're dependent on each other. Think about this. The worst punishment we have in society is solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is reserved for the most antisocial criminal people. So the worst punishment for the least social people in society is taking them away from other people. That's how social we are. And now we've normalized our loneliness and depression. This doctor talks about how we used to take antidepressants to like fix depression, and now we just sort of accept that we're depressed and hope the antidepressants can like help a little bit, but without any hope of ever really getting better.
10 years ago, I remember talking to patients, and we would talk about the mental health and the medications they were taking before surgery, but it was kind of like, you know, I'm on Prozac, I'm trying to get my depression under control. But nowadays, when I talk to patients before surgery, they're like, oh yeah, I take Prozac for my depression. Notice how different it is. It's like the depression is a part of them. I take it for my depression. Depression has almost become normalized. Instead of like 10 years ago, I'm taking this to try to get over my depression, I take it because of my depression. Notice the word choice, very powerful.
And be careful, because researchers have warned that when you have a buyer's mindset on friendships, where you're constantly shopping around to get the best, most ideal friend, rather than doubling down on the people you know, or one or two people that you think would be cool to get to know, is associated with lower satisfaction, greater regret, and a diminishment of well-being, because people are not commodities to buy and trade in when things aren't going right anymore, to just be discarded. But that's how we treat people when we say we don't owe anybody anything. You do owe things to your long-term friends. You shouldn't just drop them at the first inconvenience or the first time they get into trouble. What's the famous song, "Nobody knows you when you're down and out"? Just as soon as my dough got low, I couldn't find a friend or a place to go. In my pockets, not one penny. All of my friends, I haven't any, because nobody knows you when you're down and out. Look, we can all relate to being exacerbated by getting a phone call. But if it's your friend, you'd think you'd at least want to talk to them rather than doom scroll. If nothing else, to keep up your relationship. And it's videos like this that people are anxious to call someone else because they're just so worried they're going to be an inconvenience, because that's what we measure friendships by.
Sometimes I actually get a little irritated when I get a phone call because A, you're calling me and I don't subscribe to that, and B, you're actually interrupting the only reason I have a phone, which is to scroll social media. And now I have to sit there and wait for your call to ring all the way through before I can return to that, because I don't want it to seem like I'm ignoring you, even though I am.
But then when they themselves are in need, are afraid to call anyone because they don't want to be a burden, so they just suffer in silence.
And now more than ever, friends are so hard to come by and they're so valuable. The 4 problems I laid out in this video have become widespread. This is the culture that has everybody Venmo them 2.5 cents for their share of a banana. Or even the reverse. We're constantly thinking about how is somebody potentially gaslighting me or manipulating me or not recognizing my worth or harming my mental health in this therapy speak, in this therapy culture, that even when you pay for your friends, you can become evil.
So my best friends from middle school were visiting me in New York City. These friends have some liquidity issues. I wanted to show them my favorite restaurants without anyone worrying about money or cost. So I said, I'll pay for all your food. Then they go home, and for 3 months, I don't hear from them. Stop responding to all of my messages in the group chat. And I asked one of them if they were ghosting me and what's wrong. And they said, the way that you paid for everything on our trip was manipulative. You don't serve me anymore. I'm like, did your therapist tell you this? Who the hell is serving who? We're friends.
Like, we just are always looking for reasons to drop somebody, for reasons that they're not measuring up, rather than looking at reasons we can be a better friend. And we're so used to everything being so sterile, so convenient, so cookie cutter, that we also think all of our friendships need equal attention, but it's your most meaningful connections that you should be spending the most time with. This reminds me, I heard someone once say, it's a little odd that guys pay for the first date, and then like, oftentimes the couple will split it like on the 10th date. You have much more obligation and you care about this person much more on the 10th date. Isn't that when you should start paying for them rather than when they're a complete stranger? I hang out with my closest friend at school a lot, and someone once accused us of codependency, which is of course another therapy language designed to bring everyone back to the mean, where no one gets too close with anybody else, because we think we're supposed to be these cookie cutter machines where we have 7 co-equal friends we see once a week, and you never become too close with one friend because that could be codependent, or they could turn out to not protect your peace. And so you never end up really meaningfully connected to someone, the way that the phrase, blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, indicates friendship is really capable of being. I'm sure your best memories, though, and most meaningful connections haven't come from spending time with the 20 people in your class equally. It's by spending 20 times more with one person, with the one person in your class you're friends with, or think you could be friends with. I made that mistake. When I first came to college, I wanted to be friends with the largest number of people possible. I essentially felt like that way I'll always be hanging out with someone. You got enough plates spinning in the air, some of them will turn out. But then everyone else would just become much closer with a smaller number of people, and they would have the real friendships, because friendships aren't a numbers game. And you can have agency too. You can make things happen. Like, I've done a ton of presentation nights. They're so fun, and I've initiated like all of them. And that's fine. You don't have to complain that your friends aren't real friends because they haven't initiated. You can just do things. Remember recently when everyone had those performative mail contests? Well, don't wait for a social trend to do things. Just start doing them. And if only 3 people show up, if only 1 person shows up, well, that's awesome, because you'll be able to do it much more meaningfully, interactive with just 1 or 2 or 3 people than if there's 10 people there. Now, I know this is sort of self-defeating because we didn't actually end up doing it, but for a while, my friends and I were planning on doing a Happy New Month party Instead of just a Happy New Year's party, we celebrate the new month. You know, like, that would be awesome. Maybe we'll still do it. Like, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't need to wait permission. The most real connections you'll have are with a very small number of people, and you should lean into that. Don't feel like you need to have a big group that you know equally. Which also makes me so angry when schools try to ban best friends so no one's feelings get hurt. Having a best friend is great, and it's much better than having, like, a bunch of mediocre friends that feel forced. And of course, there are reasons to not be friends with people. Even to end friendships, there are many. But it's about the fundamentals. It's not because they did one thing that you think in therapy speak is something that's not protecting your peace. Being easy to get along with is a virtue, and you'll make more friends that way. C.S. Lewis talked about his best friend, and how that friendship was him and another person seeing the world in the same way. Lewis says romantic love has two people looking at each other, but friendship has two people looking at the same thing together. A friend is someone who can look at the world with you and be in the world alongside you. Friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things which give value to survival. And I think he summarizes it all with this quote. He said, "Romance will lead to naked bodies. Friendship, naked personalities." And I think we're both our body and our personality, but are we not at core more our personality than our body? Does that not make friendship the most intimate of all human relationships? Sometimes it's our friends, more than our parents, more than our significant others, sometimes more than ourselves, who know us in the deepest way. I've had friends be able to predict something about me that I couldn't even see. And I'll leave you with this paraphrase of C.S. Lewis, talking about how friends can see you and bring things out in you that you could never on your own. He says, "I want other lights than my own to show all my facets and yours. Hence, true friendship is the least jealous of love."
I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no.
Go out and make friends with someone in the comments. Thanks to our fantastic patrons for making this possible. Welcome to our newest patron, Anthony. Glad you're here. You guys help me think through these videos, and your comments make me see it from different perspectives, like a friend would. If you want to join, the link's in the description. Thanks for watching.